everyone, welcome back to Reading with Tatiana. Today I'm changing things up and doing a book to movie adaptation review. I haven't done this in a while actually, and I really enjoy them because it's always fun to watch what you read come onto the big screen or the medium screen because I was watching it at home. So the book to movie adaptation review today is A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman. This book I actually read a long time ago, but I reread it for a book club I did recently with my partner's mom and sister. And for that book club, it's really fun because we always try to pick like books that are also movie adaptations, so we can read the book and then have dinner and watch a movie together. And The Man Called Ove was adapted into two movies. The first one is in 2015, also called the same name, A Man Called Ove. It was a Swedish movie, and then later, I think like last year or two, it was remade American in Hollywood, and it was renamed as A Man Called Otto, and the main actor was Tom Hanks. Before I dive into my book to movie adaptation review, if you're watching this, I'll always appreciate if you hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and if you've read the book and or watched a movie, I'd love to hear what you thought down below of this adaptation or of the books or the movies by themselves. I will give my rating, I guess, both at the same time. So for my first category, as a movie adaptation goes, for both the Swedish and American version, I give it a 5 out of 5. I thought they were both really true to the book and hit all the main points. Obviously, for the American one, they changed some things. So Parava was casted correctly in the Swedish version as like an Iranian, I believe, or like Persian woman with a Caucasian husband. However, in the American version, they casted her as Hispanic and same with her husband. It didn't really like change the plot for me, and I think it made sense for like the cultural aspect. But I feel like if she was casted Persian as well in the American version, it would have been fine. But I guess the Hispanic one had more of like a comedic relief. So yeah, but for a book to movie adaptation, I think both were pretty solid. I gave them both 5 out of 5. As a movie, surprisingly, I did watch the Man Called Otto first, the American version first, and I felt like maybe because they tried to like do a more like comedic spin to it, I enjoyed it more. So I actually gave the Man Called Otto a 5 out of 5 movie. However, for a Swedish one, and this really pains me to say because I always like to say the original is better, but the Swedish one for me kind of felt a bit flat. So I'll probably give that actually a 4 out of 5. I did think the casting was great. I think it was true to the book, but I just like having experienced the comedic spin to it was just so much better in the American version. So the Swedish one I give a 4 out of 5. However, having said that, for the movie The Untouchables, when I watched the original French version, that was like a 5 out of 5. And I watched the American version, which had the guy who played Walter White, Bryan Cranston, and Kevin Hart. Even though it was a comedic spin to it, it was like awful, and I'm like, why did they have to remake this movie at all in the American version? So I just want to say that I don't always think that, but in this one, A Man Called Ove, A Man Called Otto, the American version was better for me. On Rotten Tomatoes, A Man Called Ove, the Swedish version got 91%, versus the American version, A Man Called Otto, only got 69%. I'm pretty surprised that was so different, but that's just how the critics scored it. On IMDb, reviewers were actually pretty similar. A Man Called Ove, the Swedish version, got 7.7, and A Man Called Otto, the American version, got 7.5. And then on Google, reviewers were also kind of like a bit different, but more closer than the critics were. A Man Called Ove, the Swedish version, got 89%, and A Man Called Otto, the American version, got 79%. So I feel like maybe the critics probably felt like there didn't have to be a remake, which is totally fair. But in terms of like a user watching experience, I think they're pretty similar, and for me, the American version was better. So the premise of this book is we basically meet Ove/Otto. He is recently widowed by his wife, and he's very grumpy. He's like a neighborhood watchdog. Every morning he does his round of the townhouse complex or the row house complex. He makes sure the garbage is sorted properly. He makes sure everything in its place, and he's just very grumpy. And there's a cast of characters. There's like a chubby man who walks the neighborhood every day. There is a new family that moved in who is kind of chaotic and kind of becomes like his new best friends. And he also has his neighbors who him and his late wife were friends with and had like decades of friendship. But this couple, it is the husband who is getting sick and the woman who may be kicked out. So they're both sent to like old folks' homes because they no longer live there. So there's lots of changes in Ove and Ovo's life. And with his wife who recently died, he doesn't want to live anymore, so he plans to kill himself. But in a turn of events, every time he tries to kill himself, things happen. For example, his new neighbors, the renters, need his help. For example, a cat shows up, and just all these things happen where, like, Owen Otto feels he has nothing to live for. He suddenly has things to live for. This book is just book and movie. It's just very heartwarming because it just shows like, you don't need necessarily these deep, crazy connections to live, and even when you lose them, sometimes about having these like people who check in on you every day, or give things for you to do to have life purpose to really keep you going. This book also touches a lot of different topics. The idea of like ageism, the idea of LGBTQ, which I didn't touch on, but if you read or watch it, it'll make sense. And the idea of community. I just love this book. It was just really lovely. The movies did a really great job as well. I thought the movies were both true to the books. Obviously, there were some things they had to like scrap for the movie. So, for example, they kind of like didn't really like touch on the neighbor with the annoying dog. And I felt like in the book she was like her and her husband or her and her boyfriend were like a bigger part in the book. But in the movie, there was kind of like really side, like comedic relief characters. I thought the casting for the Swedish and American version was pretty good. However, I will say the Swedish version, the casting was better. I felt Ove was just like exactly the grumpy man I imagined. Tom Hanks was Tom Hanks. I mean, I feel like in every movie I can't unsee Tom Hanks. However, Tom Hanks was really great in that role. The aesthetics in this movie was great for both of them. I noticed that in both movies, when anything was like any scenes were indoors, it was always kind of dark and like with natural light and not like indoor lighting. Which if I was interesting they did that, I wonder why. The aesthetics of both movies were actually surprisingly very similar, even though one was American, one was Swedish. I really enjoyed the aesthetics. I love the row house. I really imagine how it will look like in the book to be in both the movies, and they did a really great job. And the movie by itself, I think if you watch a movie blind without reading the books, I think both movies would have been good. However, when you read the book, you don't see all this like internal dialogue that happens or his backstory. So I do think like the movie would have been good, but not like amazing. But having read the books, both the movies were pretty good. Oh yeah, also one thing I want to share that one thing they did better in the Swedish version of the movie is that they had more backstory, more upbringing of Ove, with his father and also with his wife, Sophia. However, in the American version, it kind of glazed over it, so it's more focused on like present day. So those were like the big differences between the movies. Thanks for watching until the end of my book to movie adaptation for A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman, or A Man Called Otto, the American movie version. If you watch these movies, please comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!